All right, guys, on this one, we're playing black. White's king just moved from d4 to d5. Let's do a material count real quick. I have 5 black pawns. He has 4 white pawns. I have 2 rooks. He has 2 rooks. So he also has 2 bishops. So he is dominating us as far as material goes. So we're going to need to figure out something fast to win, most likely, so that we don't lose in the end game. So let's look at, I like the positioning of my pawns on c7 and b7 because they cut off the squares of d6, c6, and b6 and a6. So the e file is controlled by us with our rooks. So I'm looking at just like a simple rook to e5 check. What does that do? And then his king can only escape to d4 where he came from. And then how do we follow that up? I want to leave my rook in that line on e5 and then wrangle or like basically put together a mating net with the other rook, because my rook that's now on e5 will be protected by my pawn on f6. So I almost want to go like after that, rook to e5 check, king to d4. I almost want to go I almost want to bring my other rook down to like e4. So because that way we can kind of eliminate the king coming up the d file, like back to or excuse me, I misspoke. So rook to e5 check, king to d4, and then we have what can we do there? I kind of want to go rook to e3 with the other rook and kind of just box him in. That way he can't move, because that's the mating net that we need to be able to strike with like c5, which would be checkmate. So is that fast enough though? That's the question. Is that fast enough? So rook to e5 check, king to d4, other rook, which is on e2, to e3, creating that box, creating that mating net where he can't get away. And then we just need to deliver checkmate with a different piece, which would be our c7 pawn most likely. So that's what we're threatening, is basically c5 checkmate, checkmate, because my e5 rook in that case defends the c5 pawn. So how can he stop that? He would probably push b4, knowing that c5 is coming, and then we don't want to take back. Like a5 takes b4 would be bad, because then he has bishop takes b4 and he's still stopping the advance of c5. So if he pushes b4, we probably want to go b6, because then we're kind of reigniting the threat of c5. And what would he do there? Well, then he could push c5, and that also creates space for his king to escape back on c4. So this is going to get a little bit more complicated than I originally imagined looking at this position. So rook to e5 check, king to d4, other rook on e2 to e3, creating our mating net, threatening c5. But then he sees it and he presses b4. We see what his defense is, then we press b6, and then he pushes c5. We take back, b6 takes c5 with check. He takes back, b4 takes c5, and what have we gained here? Well, then what if we juggle, if that's the position we end up in, then we can slide our top rook, which is on e3, over to say D3 would check. Then he goes king to C4. I feel like we just let him out. We let him off the hook there, guys. I don't think that's it. That's too complicated. I mean, not saying it can't happen, but there's probably an easier way to do this. So let's go back from the beginning. I do like the box, the mating net that we have. Rook to E5 check, king to D4, other rook on E2 to E3, threatening C5. He sees it, he presses B4. Let's go ahead and take and just see what happens there. So originally I wrote it off because I said the bishop takes and that's it. But A5 takes B4, bishop takes B4, B6, C5, C5. I keep wanting to slide the E3 rook over on the top, thinking that there's something there. But I think that lets him off the hook. I don't think that does it. Rook E5 check. King to D4. You know what? What if instead of trying to cinch the mating net with the top rook on E3, what if we just push C5 right away? That way we can get it coming from the bottom side. So we have to deal with the B4 problem. So what if after rook E5 check, king D4, we hit him with C5 check? Then he can go to D3, or he can go to C3. I feel like he's getting away here. Well, hold on a second. No, that's it. Because then after we hit him with C5 check, he goes to D3, then he gets mated with the rook that was on E5 goes back to E3, and that's checkmate. Oh, that's crazy. That's not how I thought it was going to go, just based on the formation of our rooks. But he actually ended up wrangling him with the C pawn, not the E2 rook. Okay, so let's run through that again. So now it's going to, okay, so it's rook on E4 to E5 with check. King goes to D4. Then we go to C5 check. That's the next move. Now we don't have to run into all the problems with the B pawn disrupting our mating net with the C pawn. So it's rook to E5 check, king D4, C5 check, and if he goes to D3 or C3, he's going to get mated with the bottom rook. Rook to on E5 to E3 checkmate, because it's like an accordion mate, and that other rook on the top just stays there the entire time. So our pawn that's on C5 now controls that D4 and B4 squares. All right, I'm going to make the move now. Check, C5 check, and that's it. All right, guys, we got 7 points there. That's a 2246 rated puzzle and a 53.1% pass rate. It took us about 9 minutes, 9.5 minutes to get that right.